So when shall I go?
Yeah, go ahead and dive right in.
Okay.
I clicked record, so we're good to go.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Build Your Consulting Business Now Summit, an international multi-day event. And this morning we are thrilled to have Jeffery Avila. Is that how I say it? Jeffery Avila?
Aviles, but
Aviles. There we
let it
go.
roll off the tongue.
And, just learning a little tiny bit about you was pretty exciting because today I understand you're going to share and do a dynamic presentation on connecting the dots between that fight and flight that we all go through, where our heart's racing and we're constantly overthinking and doubting ourselves. I know I'm guilty. And so, Jeff, today it sounds like you're going to teach us a couple techniques here that helps eliminate that, to help increase our productivity and create motivation. And I like this one, on demand. And I know we can all use that. So share with us, Jeffery, share with us your nuggets of wisdom today.
Awesome, Bonnie. Thank you for the introduction. That was amazing and phenomenal. You got me hyped up. So first of all, I want to ask everybody there in the internet world, have you ever been in a fight? And if you have, then you probably have noticed that it's not very fun. See, when I first started boxing a whole bunch of years back, I found myself in the ring in a fight. And they punched me in my nose, and I got all these different messages. The first message I got was, run, this is stupid. Why are you willingly fighting somebody? The next one was, I feel like crying. I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. The next one was, I need to hit him back. He needs to find out who I am. I'm not going to let this happen. So you get all these flood of emotions. And while you're getting all these flood of emotions, your body is signaling which emotion it needs to go with. And this is your fight or flight system, which is giving you three options to choose from. Option number one, you can fight the individual. You can fight back. Your body has created the system in you to show you that there is a way out, that you can fight this individual if you can win. The second one is freeze. And this is basically when you play dead. This is basically, have you ever seen somebody that's depressed and they're struggling with getting out of bed? Their body has activated the freeze mechanism because they figure if they play dead long enough, somebody will leave them alone. And then the last one is flight. And this is the most dangerous one. And other people think fight or freezing is dangerous, but flight is the most dangerous one. Because picture this, right? You get flight mode activated and you run away from the situation and you're fine. Great. But let's say if you get flight mode activated and you can't run away from the situation, what's happening to your body? Your heart is going 100 miles per minute and is basically creating stress hormones all throughout your body. And there's nothing you can do to relax it. And when there's nothing you can do to relax it, these stress hormones flow to your brain. And your brain starts to get its reptilian function out, which when it starts thinking like a reptile, is thinking about one thing, and that's survival. So you're less likely to see these other options around you, and you're more likely to focus on this one problem. And that's where the overthinking comes in, that we start focusing on all the ways we can avoid this problem from happening. And it never even penetrates our mind that this problem isn't a life or death situation. Just think about it. How many times have you ruminated over a problem over and over and over again, to find yourself thinking about it for 2 to 3 hours, to realize after it's all, that wasn't a really big issue, right? And that happens to all of us. And it's because we're activating the system over and over again, which can have devastating impact on your mind, on your body, and on your business. Now, what I wanted to share a little bit is how it's impacting all aspects of you and your business. And the first way that it's impacting aspects of your business and your mind is that it's causing you to feel like a failure. Because once the system has been activated over and over, and you choose the mechanism of flight, that means you're avoiding pain on a regular basis. And if you're avoiding pain on a regular basis, you're avoiding failing on a regular basis. So when you start to avoid failing on a regular basis, this becomes a conditioned response. And it's scary when it becomes a conditioned response. Because when it becomes a conditioned response, it's hard to break. You go over and over repeating the same mistakes. For instance, and I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, I suck at rollerblading. It's a fact. I didn't realize I sucked at rollerblading until about a month ago, where I think I was having a midlife crisis, and I told my girl, let's go buy rollerblades. We can rollerblade with the kids. This would be fun. So me and her start rollerblading, and she picks up on it a little better than me. Like, she's bad, but she's not as bad as me. So we're rollerblading, and I'm trying not to kill myself, and it looks hilarious. Because the way I'm stopping is I'm jumping off of the street onto the grass. And it's dangerous, but it works for me. So anytime I ran into a problem, I just jumped, which I know you're not supposed to stop like that, but that's how I was stopping. And it got to the point where I even researched the YouTube videos on how to stop correctly. And then I had already conditioned the fear that this is how you stop. My reptilian brain had made the connection that you stop by jumping off of the street onto the grass. So as much as me and my girl did it over and over and over, I couldn't break this habit. For some reason, my subconscious mind would take over and cause me to jump, which meant that I couldn't rollerblade because I have a family to support and I can't risk injuring myself every time we rollerblade. So I returned them. But that's just one example of how fear gets conditioned inside of you, and you could repeat it over and over. Another example is of this client that I was working with, and she runs several businesses. She's a serial entrepreneur, runs several businesses, has so much going on. She's amazing, but she has the bad habit of biting on too much, which we all have that habit. And what was often happening in her business is she had started so many, and about 2 to 3 was successful, but the rest was just kind of like a launch in a fail process because she didn't dot her T's, dot her I's, cross her T's. So she was fearful of completing everything because she felt overwhelmed. So she started to think about all the things that would happen if she completed all the things she had to do instead of focusing on one thing at a time. So what I want to do today is I want to teach you a strategy to overcome this overthinking, because I did say that I was going to teach everybody strategies to overcome the overthinking. But before I teach you this one strategy, I want you to understand the mechanism behind overthinking. Overthinking is your mind's way of doing mental math, which, Bonnie, if you were to do 2 plus 2, you would say just that simple, it's 4. But if I was to go, what's 2 million times 686, you would go, what? Right? It would kind of be like you could,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's too many digits there to process. And that's often the problem you're encountering when you're overthinking. There's too many thoughts there to process. So the moment that you start participating in overthinking, you need to jot it down because it's a complicated equation that you can't solve in your head. And the more you try to solve it in your head, the more you just burn yourself out. And you may burn yourself out to the point that you start coming up with horrible answers to the solution. So that's the frame that I wanted to educate everybody on. As long as we have that frame, everything is going to be easier. So one way to stop the overthinking is to use this little interruption technique that I've learned. And Bonnie, you go ahead and participate with this if you would like.
I will.
All right, so you're my awesome assistant. So it's a little hard to do this, but I'm gonna try. You just take your hands out like this, right? And you start rubbing them together. As you start rubbing them together, you start to look at your hands now. And you start to look at your hands and you rub them as fast as you can for about a minute. And as you continue to rub them and rub them and rub them, you start to notice the heat, the sensation picking up on your hand. And as you notice the heat and
Yes.
sensation picking up on your hand, I want you to momentarily separate them, but not yet. But when I ask you to momentarily separate them, I want you to imagine that it's kind of like there's a magnetic force that's keeping the hands from touching. And as you separate them, you're going to notice a vibration, and you can separate them now and
Oh,
notice
yeah.
the vibration. And as you try to put them together, I want you to imagine a magnetic force keeping them apart. And it's going to be kind of like a little ball that as you try to push it apart, you feel this kinetic energy there.
Absolutely.
And as you feel that kinetic energy, I want you to visualize your goal. Visualize yourself, visualize the outcome, and keep visualizing it over and over. And what this visualizing is doing is it's causing your mind to focus on one outcome, one solution, and no longer the problem. And it's kind of a weird thing because as you continue to press it, you get better and better at it, and you feel that kinetic energy. And you can relax your hands now.
Whew, this is
It's pretty
awesome. Thank you.
We gotta get innovative with Zoom. So what's going on here is instead of getting your reptilian brain to focus on this problem over here, we're literally grabbing your other senses because we process the world in multiple ways. And the way we process the world is the way we process our problems. So some of us tend to be visual, some of us tend to be kinesthetic, some of us tend to process it auditorially. This is kind of like how everybody learns. What this technique does is it pulls in two of your senses and it causes you to focus on it. If you notice, I told you to look at it and I told you to feel it. What that is doing is it's pulling your attention away from thinking about the problem and instead of focusing on this new solution that we're starting to embark on. So this is something that you could practice over and over and you'll get better at overthinking. And it's also a great centering technique. Most of all is a huge pattern interrupt. Because after doing this, after rubbing it, after feeling the hands getting hot, your brain is no longer focusing on those other little problems. It's just focusing on making this hotter and hotter. So that's one of the techniques that I'm going to share with you. Now, there's another one that I wanted to share with you. And the other one that I wanted to share with you, I gotta describe to you why it's crucial that I share it. So oftentimes, like I mentioned earlier, we have internal dialogue inside our brain. And this internal dialogue is often holding us back. Many people don't know how horrific this dialogue is. For instance, it's estimated that we have about 40 to 80,000 thoughts in a day. That's a lot of thoughts. And when I ask people, how many thoughts do you think a confident person is having? They usually say, well, 80,000 thoughts. Of course, they're thinking more, they're confident, they're successful, they should be thinking more. And their answer is no. The confident person is having less thoughts because they're taking more action. The anxious person is taking a little action, and that's why they're overthinking everything. So the more thinking you do, as crazy as it is, the more you find yourself in problems. It's kind of like that Nike commercial, just do it. Like that's literally what you should be doing. Just do it, test it, and then do it again. So oftentimes we find ourselves having all these thoughts, and these thoughts come down to our subconscious mind, which is subconscious mind is a part of you. And it's kind of like that little voice in the back of you, and you're taking it as your own voice, but it's not actually your own voice. It's more of a system that was created to protect you. And what I mean by a system that was created to protect you, it's kind of like when you're driving, no, when you're the passenger and you're teaching somebody how to drive. When Bonnie, I don't know if you ever taught somebody how to drive.
Yes.
Yes. Wasn't it the experience of your life?
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Should I share? My sister bought a stick shift car. She didn't know how to drive it. We bought it downtown LA and we had to drive to the San Fernando Valley over a mountain, through a freeway. And the whole time I was like, let your foot off slowly. And of course the car is bucking and charging, and it was quite a ride home.
Look at that. It's scary. I had to teach 3 of my younger brothers how to drive. And I told all of them they're gonna teach my kids how to drive because I'm not doing it anymore. I think I lost my head teaching them how to drive. It was the scariest experience. And the reason I bring this up is because while I was driving, well, while I was the passenger, I kept hitting the brake. I would repeatedly hit the brake. Now, there was no brake on my side, and I consciously knew there was no brake on my side. But subconsciously, my body was pressing that hard. It would not relent on that brake.
I relate.
And for some reason, I kept holding the little hanger thing there. I don't know what that was doing, but holding it made me feel comfortable. And this was my subconscious mind finding a way to provide closure, to calm me down, to relax me, to tell me everything is going to be okay. Now, when you get into what people often get into the problem with their subconscious mind is when they've conditioned the fear that I talked about earlier. When your subconscious mind is conditioned to fear, it tells you that you're gonna fail at things because it's protecting you. It's going, don't do that. You're gonna fail, and they're gonna laugh at you. So it's not a bad thing, but it's more of a problematic thing that you need to solve it. It's kind of like when you're driving and you see the check engine light. The check engine light itself isn't bad. If it didn't come up, that would be a problem because you would go to the mechanic and say, my car is just stalled out, no light turned on or anything. The check engine light is indicating something is wrong. So your subconscious mind is just indicating something is wrong. It may not necessarily be true, but the more you believe it to be true, the greater problems you run into. So as you start to do this internal search for yourself, you can start asking yourself questions. Where have I been conditioned to be fearful at? Because fear is just a condition-based emotion that your subconscious mind has gifted you with. And once you start to understand where have you been conditioned to be fearful, you could develop a strategy and a plan to overcome it. Now, the strategy and plan that I'm going to teach you today to overcome it came from me from this speaker that he's spoken all around the world. He's spoken at all the big conferences. And he's told me this one technique was the best technique he's ever learned and has helped him produce millions and has helped other people produce millions. So I wanted to share this technique with everybody here. And keep in mind, this technique is so that you could finally learn how to overcome your fear and so that you could finally step into who you're truly meant to be. So this is all you have to do. I want you to jot down your goals. And as you jot down your goals, I want you to jot them down for about 5 to 10 minutes. Include income goals, include short-term strategies, include long-term actions that you need to take. Break down all the goals that you need to have. After you break down your goals, I want you to get your cell phone, which I can't grab my cell phone because I'm talking about it, but grab your cell phone and I want you to repeat your goals over and over on a recording. Now, what you're doing is you're gonna make an audio recording of your voice repeating your goals, and you're gonna play it at least 2 to 3 times a day. And what's gonna happen is this is gonna be the new subconscious voice that you hear, because you're slowly gonna be reprogramming your mind to believe this voice instead of this fearful voice. It's kind of like how we've been conditioned by music and the media. Like, for instance, the SpongeBob song. I don't know how we all know it, but we know it. It's become a cultural norm that as soon as you hear the beat, you start to recite the whole song and you go, SpongeBob, like, it's just become a norm. And it's because we've heard it so often that it's programmed into our subconscious mind. And there's many other jingles like this that they play on the radio, and for some reason we learn them. This is what this is doing. Only instead of listening to music, instead of gossiping with a friend, instead of thinking about something that doesn't matter, you're gonna play this audio 2 to 3 times a day. And you're going to slowly start to rewire your thinking over and over and over. And it's crucial that you play this audio right before you go to sleep, because the suggestions you're giving yourself is what's causing this to happen. Well, it's what's causing your problems to happen. And to give you an example of how powerful suggestions are, I'm going to need Bonnie to be my assistant once again. Are you ready, Bonnie?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. So I want you to go ahead and close your eyes.
Okay.
Take a nice deep breath in and an exhaling breath out. Take another nice deep breath in and an exhaling breath out. Now I want you to think of an image. It could be a dog, a cat, or a house. But I want you to keep that image no matter what I say. So keep that image in your mind. Once you have that image, just nod your head yes so that I know you have that image. Great. And as you have that image locked into your mind, I want you to focus on the tiny little muscles in your eyelids. Focus on those tiny little muscles in your eyelids. Notice how relaxed they are. Notice how comfortable they are. Notice as you continue to focus on that image, that even if you were to try to open those eyelids, they will squeeze down even further. Now try to open them as much as you can and notice them squeezing down even further. Keep trying to open them and they squeeze down even further. Keep trying. This is Zoom, everybody. I'm not touching her. They squeeze down even further. And when you're satisfied, you can say, I'm satisfied, and you can open them.
I'm satisfied. That was weird.
If people think they can't get hypnotized via Zoom, hey.
That was first time ever. That was awesome.
How did that feel, Bonnie?
It was a very interesting experience. I was really trying to feel everything. Who was my vision was my cat, my former cat, Miss Sarah Permaster. Had her in my mind, and then, like I said, the eyelids didn't want to come up. Very interesting. Wow, I love it.
Yeah, and this is the crazy thing, because all that happened is I got you to accept my suggestions, right? That's all that happened. That's all I did. I didn't do anything magical. I got your subconscious mind to accept my suggestions. And I was able to manipulate you because I got your subconscious mind to accept my suggestions. Now, that isn't the scary part, because our subconscious mind is able to block out suggestions we get all the time. So if, like, from the get-go, you could have been like, I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to do this. And there's nothing I could have done, right? The scary thing about this is not what I could do, is what you're doing to yourself. Because you're giving yourself suggestions all the time that's causing you to sabotage yourself in ways that you didn't even think of. So it's important to pay attention to the fact that you're constantly sabotaging yourself with these internal suggestions you're giving yourself. And that's why I want you to use that recording technique to override these suggestions. Now, I think we're a little bit short on time, right?
We have about 7 minutes or so. 8. Let's see. We have about actually 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay, so I wanted to open it up for questions.
If we don't get any questions in, Andrew, do we have any questions? I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
So the beginning of your story, you were sharing, about the fighting and what other things inspired you to teach these amazing this information to others? What's inspired you to teach this?
There's so many things that inspired me to teach it, but it's kind of like just I'm obsessed with success. So to see how many people were able to come from poverty and become millionaires has always been something that's fascinating, because it's kind of like alchemy. How do you turn nothing into gold? Mm-hmm. So I've always studied it and realized that a lot of it is mindset. And as long as you're able to overcome the limiting beliefs that you have, then you'll take X amount of chances to reach the desired result. And the more chances you take at it, the more opportunity you have to be successful.
And does it matter the age of the person that you're teaching these amazing skill set to? Can they be young or old or middle aged?
The age doesn't matter, and it's funny because it works better with kids and athletes and people that meditate, because they've developed a better and I forgot what portion of the brain it's called, but there's a portion of the brain that allows you to visualize. And the better you're at visualizing, the better you're at this process. And it's funny because the better you're at visualizing, the better you are at accomplishing your goals, because you're kind of doing that mental math that's allowing you to strategize, what do I need to do to get from point A to point B.
That is just awesome. So I believe that you'll be doing an offer for everyone at the end of this. And so I know that what I learned today is going to benefit myself. So thank you so much. I know that everyone that hears your presentation today, they take these nuggets that you just taught us and use them, their life literally will be better for it. Not only better for it, but what you were sharing is it can take people from maybe not doing financially well and escalate them just tremendously, get them to somewhere they might want to be going. But it also sounds like you can take these same techniques just for a calming way of life too, to bring themselves down with all the excitement of the news, all the everyday, day in and day out, that they can actually just have a better life overall. That doesn't have to be monetarily. Sounds like these tools can be used just for everyday life.
And I'm happy you touched on that, because oftentimes people think that the more stressed they are, the better proactive they are, but that's not true. Stress limits your ability to think critically. So the more stressed you are, the more you're depleting your brain of its ability to function at optimal state. So you always want to be calm and relaxed when you're making any major decision in life.
I think you can also, it helps you influence other people in a calm way. The calmer we are, the calmer the other person, because we start interacting just as you were interacting with me, feel what you were
Absolutely.
teaching me, and just closing my eyes was helpful. Just
Absolutely.
because I do meditate.
Oh, that's why you were so good at it.
And where are you located?
I'm located in Baltimore, Maryland at the moment. I'm originally from Jersey, so you may hear a slight of a New York accent.
Indeed. And we loved your presentation this morning. We still have a couple minutes. Is there any one last nugget you'd like to leave us with today?
Sure. One last nugget that I want to leave you with is when you're working with clients, you want to be mindful of the client you're working with and imagine they are the most important person in the world. Our body has something called neuron neurons, and it picks up on this energy. So if I think you're the most important person in the world, you're going to naturally think I'm the most important person in the world. And you're more willing to do business with me because I've made you feel so comfortable and so valued and understood. So as you're working with clients, try not to multitask, try not to do other things. Keep that client as the primary goal in mind. And like you're gonna serve them like they're $1 million client. And you're gonna get tremendous results in your enrollment call or in your face-to-face meetings with the client.
Oh my, that probably that alone can take people so many places, whether with a parent, a child, a client, a friend, letting them know that they're the most important person in the world at that very moment, because that's all we have is moment by moment.
Exactly.
I loved your presentation. Thank you so much for being part of the Build Your Consulting Business Now Summit. It's an international multi-day event, and we just great value. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. You're amazing.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, I just changed Jeffrey to an attendee, and then up next, it looks like we have
Kimberly Whitecamp.
Yes, I'm gonna
I'm doing an
bring